Hi everybody and welcome to the United States of a Movie Podcast. We're the movie podcast that makes every Monday a fun day as we get together and we talk movies. But we have a purpose here. We are the podcast that's trying to find one movie to define each state in these United States. We've already done one trip around the states. We're currently on our second one, and today we're stopping off in the state of Georgia. And I have to be honest, I am so excited. I had some trepidation last week because I was introducing my favorite movie ever made, but I've got a funny feeling it may have landed because it is, let's be honest, the greatest movie ever made. Before we get into it though, stop making that face. I'm going to introduce you first now. Ryan Sarna, welcome back to the show with your sarcastic face.
I can't turn it off. I'm sorry. To the listener at home, I had a grimace the whole time. But I'm glad we watched these two movies. This has been a really fun week, and I think we might be the actual first podcast in history to answer the question, why the devil went down to Georgia. We might have done it.
Because it sounds like an awesome place. But before we get to that as well, Will Hirsch, as always, sitting in the middle of his very own video store in Los Angeles, California. Will Hirsch, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I do got to be on the run because I've been making some mash and running it across state lines. And
just about to get
just Coors Light. Yeah, that's definitely something I want to talk about. It's possibly the most low stakes movie I've ever seen.
Hey man, $80,000. Yeah, Will, actually, why don't you introduce the movie that we're talking about right now?
Yeah, so this is the first time Ryan and I both watched Smokey and the Bandit, a movie, obviously I've heard about a million times. It's Ollie's favorite movie. Never seen it before. I'm very glad I saw it now for no other reason than to see Paul Williams as a very tiny man in a very custom cowboy suit. I was having the time of my life watching him and his dad, I guess. I
thought it was his brother.
Yeah, they were son?
It's Big and Little Enos is, father and son.
Okay.
Yeah, they are the same age. That was driving me crazy, but I was absolutely loving it. And also, I'm building a time machine to go back in time to marry Sally Field.
Man, you are not wrong. I'm going to call you Frog because I want to jump you. We'll get back to that one though. Ryan. So in this case, we had the 1977 movie starring Burt Reynolds, directed by Hal Needham, but we also brought to the table a 1976 movie, which basically has almost the same crew and cast and, in a way, premise. So I was hoping for good things, but we ended up with something else. Why didn't you introduce this movie?
I don't know why I didn't pick this movie, but we picked 1976's Gator, written, directed, starring, and manifesto written by Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
Well, yes, not quite written, but it was Burt Reynolds' directorial debut. It's starring Burt Reynolds. The second unit director was some guy called Hal Needham that went on to direct Smokey and the Bandit, and then every other Burt Reynolds car-based movie for the
crazy.
Next 10
I thought he
years.
was also Burt Reynolds' stunt double in this
stunt
Gator,
double,
right?
yes. Yeah. So Hal Needham came from the world of stunts. Him and Burt Reynolds became just homies, making Gator and other things. Then it became Smokey and the Bandit 2, Cannonball Run 2, and then it's like all those other Hooper and everything else. I heard of Gator.
Cop and a half. Sure.
I saw that in theaters. Because I was mad for Burt Reynolds because of Smokey and the Bandit. But yeah, I honestly felt like Gator was going to be, for me, like another Smokey and the Bandit. I found out about Gator the way everybody else did, like we talked last week, by watching Archer. Right. And then, of course, it drove me crazy because it's actually a plot line in Archer is that I forgot and didn't realize that Gator is the sequel to the original White Lightning, which I thought, why didn't we do that? But it's not set in Georgia, so we will be doing it whenever we get to Alabama or wherever it was set.
And White Lightning, that's your Twitter handle, right?
Yes, it's weird. And like suddenly got 2 million followers, and it's like
how strange.
Yeah, I did not see that coming. Yes, White Lightning set in Arkansas. So when we get back to Arkansas, I think we may have to visit.
Is that he plays McCluskey in that? It's a proper Gator was an actual sequel to that movie.
Gator is a sequel to
because I felt like there was a lot of lore in Gator that they don't really
Yeah.
touch on.
I was like, this movie assumes I know who this guy is, which
Right.
I mean, fair enough. It's a 70s movie, so I'm like, they don't ever explain
It's a
anything.
very both of these are very 70s movies, but couldn't feel more different, you know?
Yeah.
Okay,
But
so White Lightning, the plot of White Lightning is essentially the exact plot of Gator, is that in this case, he's coming out of state prison in Arkansas for running moonshine, like we found out in the Jerry Reed song that introduced Gator.
Yeah.
But he's sent to go undercover, but in this case, he's given a high-performance 1971 Ford Custom 500. So it's basically the same plot, but this one's with a car. Gator, right, so Gator starts exactly like Smokey and the Bandit. In fact, I couldn't believe it. That we've got another Jerry Reed song that is basically like narrating the character. And then he's in the movie as well. And I honestly was so excited. I'm gonna get a new Smokey and the Bandit. And the first 20 minutes promised that. The first 20 minutes of jet boat shenanigans. I'm like,
that boat. So even before that, sorry, we're jumping ahead a little bit, but you get the opening scene of like the why of this, the politics of it. The movie opens with this beautiful shot of a Confederate flag. Introduces the mayor something.
I think it's like the governor. It's like, because we go to the state capitol.
Who's like, he drops one of the most anti-Semitic things I've ever heard until I'd opened Twitter this morning. I'm done with the Twitter jokes. That's it. But wow, it just kind of sets up the plot. They hire this lawyer out of New York who is Jewish because of the plot dictates it, even though he's maybe the least Jewish person you could ever see.
Because he's from New York.
Right. But he is, like, his last name is Friedberg.
Greenfield.
Greenfield, sorry.
Yeah, even you, Jesus. Yeah. Waited for 5 minutes and
take my Jew card away. Yeah. But it was like they really leaned into that whole thing, like, of him being a Jewish, like, attorney or something from
he's a federal agent. Right. So he's a federal agent. He's coming down to talk to the governor of Georgia about the corruption problem in the fictional Dunston County. I did a lot of Googling for Dunston. I'm like, oh, that place doesn't exist. It's got some great names, though. We've got Jerry Reed as Bama McCall, and then we've got Gator McCluskey. So basically, I think what he does is his idea as federal agent is because McCluskey's on two of three strikes. He's basically, let's use that threat of 3 strikes and you're out to send him undercover with his old friend Bama McCall, and we're going to try and take down this Georgia crime boss.
Great into it.
The plot. I'm not into it either. We're introduced to Gator in the best named swamp ever, the Okefenokee Swamp.
Yep.
Where we find him living in the swamp, but in like denim shirt and denim jeans.
All their clothes are like way too clean to be living in this swampy.
Yeah. It's a little bit crazy. And like I said, when they turn up, so there's Gator with his dad and his daughter, who looks very Native American, but his 9-year-old daughter. And then the cops turn up to try and get him. And so starts, like I said, a pretty epic 20-minute action scene.
I couldn't believe how long. I think I said on Hexstar, like, this movie feels illegal. Like, the stunt work that they're doing with this helicopter on the boat, like, it's very, like, whoa, there's no regulations.
There is Burt Reynolds 2 feet away from camera and a helicopter 2 feet away from him.
They keep using that one shot of him, like, looking back. Like, they use that shot 4 times. I think of, like, Wet Hot American Summer or something.
It got dangerous. There was some great stunts in this. And that's what I mean is that I got very, very excited. I go, oh, here we go. It's basically going to be Smokey on the Bandit, but on the water.
Right.
Well, it seems that Burt Reynolds tried to make an actual movie because after that 20 minutes, we then got an hour and 30 minutes of nothing. I mean, it's just fundamentally nothing. And then it ends with not a bad, like,
it's like a hillbilly. Well, it's just like a hillbilly noir kind of deal. Like, you know, he's undercover and he's working with the cops, but he's also befriending this criminal and he gets intertwined with them. But you do get 2 of like the greatest like Bond level henchmen in this movie with Smiley and Bones.
Yeah,
the character Bones was introduced like when you first meet Bama going to the strip club in the daytime. Great.
Hey, Georgia, baby.
You see Bones, his head is like out of the sunroof and he's driving. I'm like, that's a weird way to drive a car. Didn't clock it because he's a fucking giant in this movie.
Right.
Yeah, he reminded me of Jaws.
From
Bond. Yeah. Like, only thing missing was like the metal teeth. But yeah, I mean, I think they were even like just accentuating that even more because I'm pretty sure he's sitting on a box.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
There's no way the guy's 11 foot tall, but
He's just average height, but Jerry Reed and Burt Reynolds are 4'7". So
yeah,
Yeah.
Jerry Reed does look like a little dude.
he's so great in this movie. Oh.
But yeah, he really is. And honestly, I'd actually almost say there wasn't enough Jerry Reed. Because he's there, we're introduced to him, and then he kind of goes away for quite a bit and kind of comes back at the end. We get a random little plot line with a crazy cat lady in Greenfield. And we'll get to how they go out. I was like, what on earth is going on?
I will say I got to a certain point because I watched this earlier in the week, and it's a 2-hour runtime, which is kind of crazy.
It felt longer. I was so bored.
I got to like the last 30 minutes and I'm like, I'll just watch this tomorrow. And then I went upstairs and I'm like, fuck it, I'll finish it. And like the last 30 minutes of this movie are insane.
It does get a bit bonkers. I won't lie. But yeah, I think what I put was this movie is Walking Tall for rednecks plus the sweat from A Time to Kill.
Yeah. But only the Greenfield is overly sweaty. A lot.
Yeah. Burt Reynolds never sweats in any of these movies.
He's that opening scene, the boat chase where he's with the cops, and he's like, no, you follow them. And the cop's like, okay. And he just drives right into the fucking shit. I'm like, why would you do that, man? That's terrible police work.
Just to make a point, I guess.
Yes. Like, and then it cuts back and his shirt is off, his pants are in. He's like, what is he doing? Like, what's going on here? Ridiculous.
Though I even wrote it. I said, the Bandit, but boats, exclamation mark, yeah.
Asterisk.
But yes.
Yeah.
But like, I did put like, take that Tom Cruise, because there was a lot of like stunt work. There was a lot of Burt Reynolds stunt work. And you can kind of see, is like I said, I'll give Hal Needham credit where credit's due. Is the guy then went on to just spend 10 years making dope movies that, you know, they're not going to win any Oscars, but they're going to be
like they were kind of like finding their footwork to make. I wish I made the mistake. I watched Smokey and the Bandit first and then watched Gator because it was a shorter film. And I should have watched Gator first to then appreciate how much better Smokey and the Bandit was.
Well, you know what? Yeah. You don't need any comparison to any movie to know how amazing Smokey and the Bandit is. I think I said it last week. In 1977, the second highest grossing movie in the world behind Star Wars.
It opens with that as a title, as a scroll.
Yeah.
Much
so
like
you
Star
saw
Wars.
Star Wars. Now get ready for the real movie.
But yeah, like for me, I'd never seen Gator. I'd honestly never heard of it. I honestly kind of want to go back and watch all these other sort of like Hal Needham, like Burt Reynolds movies, because Burt Reynolds is such a charming bastard.
He is like.
Yeah, that was something I was really noticing in these movies. I'm like, man, he does. There is something that's so likable about him, and
it's the mustache.
It's the mustache. It's just like, because in Deliverance, I'm like, this guy sucks.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
But in this movie, I'm just like, oh, this guy is so much fun. But it always will make me laugh whenever I see a movie star who is directing the movie, and every woman in the movie is like, oh my god. I'm like, okay, I get it. I know you're Burt Reynolds.
Fault in this one.
Yeah, I'm like, I know you're Burt Reynolds, but so like, I don't need to be convinced that every woman wants to bang you, you know. Right. So the movie doesn't need to stop dead and even have like the child, you know, prostitute character be like, oh, Burt Reynolds. I'm like, all right.
Is that the same girl that comes up to him at like the political rally? Okay, that's what I thought.
That's the young cheerleader that comes up to him and is kind of like, well, the thing is, like, you know. What I was saying is he's funny. Like Burt Reynolds, not only is he sort of like charming, he's just always making jokes. He seems to be quite witty. He's got a bit of self-deprecation that's sort of thrown in there at the same time. He's like,
he's just like a regular guy. Like,
yeah.
You know, it's not like this, like once you get into the 80s where it's these like muscle bound, like your Arnolds and your Stallones. He's just like a regular dude. He just happens to have a fucking awesome mustache. I mean, Tom Selleck had the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like, like Samson, you know, it's when like, you know, he shaves off his mustache. It's like, nah, it doesn't work. Bring it back. But I was like, so Gator has been basically shanghaied into going undercover. He's got no choice. He meets Bama. Bama's just got every finger in every pie. He's got all the cops in his pocket. He's got basically the government in his pocket. He's helping like a mayor get elected. But then while like he's meeting,
but also owes a ton in taxes. Like that's his whole thing.
That's I think. I mean, at that point, I was like, whatever. But then it's like that's when Burt Reynolds catches is it Lauren Hutton? She's like a reporter. And as soon as he looks over, I was amazed that we didn't cut to like the Wayne's World thing of like soft focus around Dreamweaver, because he's just staring at her like, whoa, she's the most beautiful thing.
She's a striking woman especially in this film, and I thought she was great. I only really knew her from the Jim Carrey movie Once Bitten, where she's a vampire.
What? So. That's a new Jim Carrey vampire movie?
I think it was his first film. It's called Once Bitten.
I don't know if it was that or Earth Girls Are Easy.
That you're right.
Yeah, I think that might be the first one, but yeah, it's
I have seen it because she's in Zorro the Gay Blade,
right?
Which is
yes,
my wife's favorite movie, and in fact, we have on DVD downstairs, and she's the one that made me get the Blu-ray player so we can watch it.
Watch that movie.
Watch
Not
Zorro
Smokey
the
and the
Bandit.
Bandit. Zorro the Gay Blade.
Zorro the Gay Blade.
Not even the Mask of Zorro with Antonio Banderas. No. Zorro the Gay Blade.
The gayer one.
Yeah. As soon as we figure out which state Zorro is in, trust me, that original Antonio Banderas, that is one of the best action movies ever made. Is it technically California? It is, right?
It's very California.
We are doing it, guys. We are doing it because that is a movie that I think is underrated as being one of the best. It's so much buckle gets swashed in that movie, and the action is so good, and it's not CGI or anything like. It's just classic action that I'm always like Zorro, the Mask of Zorro, absolute banger.
Oh, is it better than the Lone Ranger that you fucking prattle on about?
Yes.
Hey, have you seen the Lone Ranger? Have you watched it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, I liked it.
Zorro's better.
Zorro is better. Agreed. But like, okay, so in this one, so what I like about now in both of these movies, much like you said, that Confederate flags will rock up and things like that, and you often, some sort of ancillary characters are basically just douchebags or racists or whatever. But when you watch these movies, there's always a point where you see that Gator and Smokey, the Bandit, and Snowman as well. In the second, they're a friend to all.
Right.
That's something that you always notice in these movies. Is as much as there's sort of like that element of whatever the vibe was in those places, is that you always notice that they're all friends with everybody.
Right.
It doesn't matter who they are.
And everyone knows him. Like in all of these movies, like his, I don't know how do you say it, but like he's just infamous. Like especially when you get to Smokey and the Bandit, like everyone knows this motherfucker. But even in Gator, like everyone kind of knows who he is for
just being a famous moonshiner.
Yes,
yeah. The only ones who don't
boat and an even better mustache.
Yeah, the only ones who don't know who he is are like Smiley and Bones. Sorry, the only ones who seem to be ignorant of this guy's existence. Smiley, if anybody's wondering who that actor is, it's the guy from Blazing Saddles.
Yes,
that's who my mom met in Texas, and that guy will be like, "Do you want a picture?" and talk to you about Blazing Saddles. Sounds amazing. So
he was great. He was for such a fucking creep. Like you can see why they just like, what do we name this character? And he would just smile, and there you go.
Oh, I knew, because I know I'd seen his face in a bunch. He's in Back to the Future 3.
Back to the Future 3, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I remember. Because he does have just such a unique, smiley face.
Yeah.
Great naming of a character there. And then, what was the other guy as well? Like Bones?
I thought he was going to be like some foreign NBA player, but that didn't really exist in the 70s.
Yeah, he just got traded to the Lakers.
7'3".
That's
that guy.
Nuts.
That's too tall. I'll say it. That's no one else is brave enough. I'll say it. Too tall.
Oh wow. Yeah, he's got barely anything. But he's in high school he was a highly scouted basketball recruit. There you go.
Okay.
Often linked with Wilt Chamberlain. He eventually played for the University of Southern California, only played 4 games, and then went on to be Jerry Reed's bodyguard in Gator.
Yeah. And if I remember,
he was in this. He played Bigfoot in The Secrets of Isis. He was Krakow the werewolf in House on Bear Mountain, and a bit part as Man in Gym in The Nutty Professor. But he was a weird character as well. I mean, the thing is, this movie started with so much sort of fun, and then it took itself real serious.
Way too serious, yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of once you get to the brothel, like once you get to the tension with Gator and Bama, like
it really slows to a crawl.
Yeah, because a lot's happening. But again, like the action in it, when they go to that jazz bar and they go on that foot chase, and he just has a fucking sawed-off shotgun and he blast that car, and this movie feels so unsafe to watch all that stuff.
There was definitely a few times that I'm like, like that's people could have died just then.
Yeah.
Oh, they could have lost an eye, and it's like, it's all right. We don't need safety protections. At least that's what the government's telling us now as well.
It worked for Deliverance.
Yeah, well, you are not wrong with Deliverance, notoriously one of the most dangerous movies
That's
ever
all I could think of. Not just because it had Burt Reynolds in it, because it's just like that time period.
Yeah.
Is
They didn't
that
give a
why
shit.
Bert's just a badass? You know what I mean? He's like, I did Deliverance, I did Gator, I did Smokey and the Bandit. You know what I mean? Just put me in danger. I'm fine.
You said like it does like him. It does at least look like it's him driving that boat in that opening sequence. Like,
Oh, there's
different parts.
there's a
right?
fair few times you can tell
Yeah.
it's him. There's also a fair few times you can tell it's Hal Needham because it's jumping through the air. But it's like just slap a massive mustache on his face, it'll be fine. But yeah, that's kind of what I mean. Is we get to that brothel scene where he's in a room where Bama's just finished banging the 16-year-old cheerleader who's
15 and a half.
who's hooked on drugs. Yeah, right. Did she say 15 and a half? And that's when you get a good bit of acting from Burt because he's just like, all right, I'm supposed to be undercover. I'm supposed to be charming this guy and finding out what he's doing with his finances and blah, 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 blah. And that's where he just like, he's like, this is messed up. I can't do this, you know? And so we're given this kind of like moral center that Gator has. But yeah, from that point on for an hour, it's glacial. It's like, it's taken all the momentum. It's taken all the fun, the banter. It's like Smokey and the Bandit minus the fun.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, what's the point?
Right. You're absolutely right. It just takes a very serious tone with that subject matter. Like it got to a part where I was just kind of fading out where him and Lauren Hutton and the cat lady get together to go steal some documents. I'm like, what's happening here? I don't care.
that part of that I think was throwing me off too was like the tonal shift in this movie that it would go through is like you start from like you said at the beginning where I was thinking like, is this the whole movie? Is it just a swamp chase?
Sign me up.
Yeah, and then it goes to this just slow like Stone Cold, but it's just the parts where Stone Cold was investigating things,
with all the logistics.
Yeah, and
all
then
the paperwork.
But then it becomes a comedy where it's like this cat lady's like, I can't break into this government building without my cats. It's like,
So yeah, they're running around holding cats, breaking into this place. And it
cats
just
who did not want to be on, like, you could tell, like, those cats were like clawing at Lauren Hutton, just be like, I'll kill you before you make me do another take,
and then we get tonal shift again to sort of like this romantic, as soon as they drove up to that house, I go,
they need a place to hide out. She's like, we'll go to my dad's, I think it's her father's house
or something.
Yeah.
But as soon as they drove up to their house, you could tell that house was pretty new. You're like, oh, they're gonna blow that shit up. But yeah, and then we get 20 minutes of romance, and it's not just like Bert and the journalist. It's Cat Lady and Greenfield as well.
We skipped ahead too because he gets the shit beaten out of him because he's running his mouth. Because Bama also has the cops under his influence, right?
Yeah.
So you have Greenfield in the bar talking to some thing. He's figured out who it is. The cops come in, they call Bones and Smiley. They beat I thought he was going to die for sure.
Me too. I thought dead meat. Yeah.
They beat the shit out of him because by then you get like, him and Gator finally have this like playful relationship. You get that bit of them in the car going into the town and dropping them off at his hotel. Like I was like, oh, this is cool. They're like actually getting to know each other. He's definitely going to die because they established that. But yeah, they beat the ever living shit out of him. They put him in the hospital. He's got this phenomenal neck brace on. They've got to get him out of the hospital because now they have all these documents that they need him to review to pin it all on Bama. It's too much.
Yeah, the movie needed to cut 30 minutes. It should have been an hour 40 max. Absolute maximum.
With all the musical numbers.
Yeah, but it was one of those movies because for me, Smoking the Bandit is a movie that I will watch in pure rapt attention from beginning to end. I'm laughing, enjoying myself. There gets a point later on when the banjos are going and he's just driving around and I'm just like smiling and crying at the same time, having the most fun.
That movie is paced so well.
But But then Gator, I am like, with 40 minutes to go, I'm on my phone. And I'm like, I'm writing on notes just going, all right, come on. Like, what's my note? There's some really bad teeth in this movie.
So much so that Lauren Hutton calls out the gap in her own we'll get to that part.
I know. Well, let's get there right now. I like that part.
I was going to say, there's one bit I want to talk like in that scene in the brothel, where Bama's playing poker and him and Gator have they're kind of falling out, so to speak. they go into the back bar to talk, and they drug Gator.
That's a funny
And
scene.
it's some really good, like, inebriated acting by Burt Reynolds. Like,
Yes.
because you get that slow peak, and
It is good. It does go on for 6
way
hours.
too long.
Too long.
Yeah.
My
he
God.
smashes bones with the glass. That dude didn't even blink. I was like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. And then you got another 20 minutes of that scene after that. You're just
It
like,
kept
oh,
going.
God.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I mean, there you go. I think Ryan, you're right. It's pacing is the word.
It's
Is
clunky.
Is that and then every time we do build up momentum, like Will was saying, for a certain genre that we're into, suddenly 20 minutes later we're changing it. Because like I said, we get 20 minutes of romance, and it's them on the beach, and it's like, Greenfield and Cat Lady kind of cuddling up, and then we take a hard left turn. Bama turns up, blows Greenfield away in a pretty good shot. I had to like, and and then sets fire to the place again, very dangerously. You see Jerry Reed running away from that fire and explosion. But then crazy cat lady self-immolates. She just runs back into the house.
Because her cats are in there.
You don't even, like, it's an aerial shot down. She, like, someone runs back into that fire, and then you just hear a scream. Jesus.
And then an explosion. And the thing is, it was all done in one shot. So I'm like, that stunt person has run into a safe room inside this very dangerous area, and they set off an explosion. And again, I was like, whoa, not bad. You know what I mean? If only, but you're still just... You're just so wrong-footed by, they just, after everything we've gone through, you've just killed those two characters. Like,
right. And that all happens, like, Burt Reynolds goes to make a phone call. I don't remember who the fuck he's calling. Like, he's calling in the cavalry for backup, right? And you get that really, again, just another needless scene with the two boys at the phone booth with the dog. Like, what was that?
Oh, were they running a scam? Was that like they were pretending
for $1? Like, okay.
Yeah, they were like pretending they lost a dog so they could get a dog. I didn't understand it.
But still, like, just, I mean, the one thing it does do is establish the geography, because the motel is like right there.
Yeah.
Like, when they drive back to it, fine. But still, like, that was so he goes back to the house with Lauren Hutton. It's on fire. Like, they go back to that motel, and then the tail end of this movie happens.
I kind of thought they were setting up something different too, because he was telling the FBI, or FBI, whoever he's calling,
I don't know.
bring your guys down here.
And then Irving's boss.
Yeah, and then he's telling Bama, like, come meet. I thought he was setting up they're all going to meet at the same time, and the FBI and Bama's people are going to have like a shootout or something.
That whole thing,
that's what I thought they were setting up. But no, they were setting up.
I thought it was going to be like a Hobbs and Shaw scenario. We just has like all the like a hillbilly army come. Like, I just didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah,
and what does happen is like the least interesting thing.
Right. Yeah, it was like, yes. After all the build up is that Bones gets like wiped out pretty quick because they basically lay a trap. But then it just becomes like a sort of a slugfest between Gator and Bama.
Hold on, before you even get to that, it's him and Lauren Hutton in the hotel room. He booby traps it in the most like weird MacGyver way. He pulls out the pilot light, lights the gas, ties a rope to the doorknob, then to a lamp. Then they go hide out on the side. Bones goes in, like, blasts it, and then he goes into the hotel room, and then you get this shot. Maybe you noticed it, where it was so clearly like a dollhouse scale miniature.
Yes.
Like I was, for no reason, like, I don't know why they needed to do that, and then the whole thing fucking explodes.
It was pretty dope. The explosion was pretty dope, and so like. It's kind of underwhelming, but I still was like, okay, because you could tell it's Burt Reynolds and Jerry Reed fully committing to this fight. And it's as the camera,
bars.
So it's bar, snack bar, and then like little wooden thing.
Too many snack bars. It was like 4 or 5. It was like a Naked Gun level fight.
I was gonna say, if this was a Mel Brooks movie, it would have been a glass shop, a mousetrap store.
But if you go back and watch it, like they did do it all in like for the first 3 things, it's like a one shot thing.
When he jumps they hijack Jerry Reed hijacks this surfer girl's truck.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Burt Reynolds jumps onto the back of it.
Yes.
He rolls around on the side. He's trying to grab the steering wheel. He goes over like a sand dune. That thing flips, and you see the stuntman like go flying. That is a dangerous stunt.
Yeah,
that was a Mad Max style stunt where I'm like, oh, that guy passed. We just watched him pass away. That's
I'm pretty sure that was Hal Needham again, jumping off the back.
That's where he got the idea for Smokey and the Bandit.
Let's do this, but the entire movie.
I gotta get behind the camera. This sucks.
So then they have this smackdown fight. There's a helicopter there watching at the same time. Like,
is that the FBI? Like,
I'm assuming. Right? Does Gator kill Bama?
I mean, he slams that thing on him,
and he's got the angry-looking face. But again, it was like a weak bit of wood that would have just maybe hurt his chin.
Right.
You know,
it would have been more annoying than life-threatening.
Yeah, dude, I got splinters on my jaw, man. Why would you do that? And then after all of this fucking build-up, right? You know, and like this stuff with Lauren Hutton's character, the end of the movie is she becomes a famous national CBS journalist, and he says, "I love you," but then heads home. The end. Credits.
He's like, it's kind of sad. He's like, I wanted you to meet my daughter. She's like, yeah, well, someday. He's like,
maybe.
I guess I'll just fuck off then.
Yeah, I'll go back. Right. I'll go back to the swamp.
Back to the swamp, you piece of shit.
Everyone else is dead, and you've left me.
Yeah, all of that. Like you have the scene at the romantic scene of the two of them on the beach confessing all of these things. Like she's learning more about him, which you learned practically nothing. And
I will say I like that scene because when she does, it's a Burt Reynolds movie, so she does take her top off. One thing I got to say, he never broke eye contact.
No, he didn't. I noticed that too.
That is a boss move. Yeah, that is a boss move.
She gets topless and he's just staring deep into her eyes with it, like, you just a cruel woman. And I'm like, oh, I was same thing where I was like, oh, well done, but
for a lot of it being a 70s movie, for the amount of like violence and the tone, there's no nudity in this, right? Like there's even like the strip club, like there's nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. It was just something I clocked.
And in fact, like the strip club itself, it's the stripping consists of ladies in bikinis, but they're all like greased up.
Yeah, I was about to say they are very greasy.
To a point where they say like, let's
all right, we'll take 15 and take a break.
let's degrease, ladies, and we'll reconvene. Get yourself a drink. That scene was kind of insane because we didn't even talk about that. That's your introduction to Bama. He walks up, he's flirting with the new girl. He then meets the bouncer who looks like the Penguin.
Bouncers.
Yeah, right. He smashes a glass on him and then just launches a guy.
It's like he might be 3 foot tall, but he's as strong as Superman.
Right. They establish that he's a bad guy.
He's a bad mother humper. Going back quickly to the whole Lauren Hutton not being topless thing, is that the entire movie she is braless. But apparently during the shoot, she would frequently flash the film crew in between takes to keep them alert and entertained, to the point that even Burt Reynolds had to ask her to stop. And I'm like, you know what? Good for you.
Local hero Burt Reynolds.
I do like the idea that this movie, even to film, most of the time was pretty boring and kind of a crawl. Even the filmmakers were losing interest. I really got that sense during the film. I'm like, wow, the movie is so bored with itself.
I do get like a sense that between each cut, though, because they were doing some crazy work to keep Burt Reynolds' hairpiece on through all of this. Like,
yeah,
I mean, if you give the audience, if you don't know, he was famously bald forever. So all of these movies, he was just fucking bolted on Lego
really?
Hair.
He's another Nicolas Cage, is he?
All right.
Or Sean Connery.
Sean Connery as well. Holy shit. I never, because he does have the exact same hairpiece that he then has in Smokey and the Bandit. Because it's got that weird kind of like weave that comes out.
It's the fucking Lego hair. It's just
But
that's why he's wearing a hat in the boat scene. There's no fucking way.
Good point. At one point, he's literally dressed the exact same way he's dressed in Smokey and the Bandit. Yeah. He gets the red shirt on, the blue jeans on. He's got the exact same hair and the mustache. If you give me a screenshot from this movie, I'd be like, is this an extra scene that was cut out of Smokey and the Bandit? Because the Venn diagram of these two movies is basically a circle.
Yeah.
We're just Lauren Hutton on one side, Sally Field on the other, like his dad on one side, and Buford T. Justice. On the other one, but like,
this movie lacked you're right. It really threads that it takes itself way too seriously. It's not like the humor in it isn't enough. It didn't sway one way or the other, and Burt Reynolds just couldn't decide on what type of movie to make, so he wanted to make all of the movies. And it just kind of hurts this It makes it less fun.
Well, I think it's a reaction to like some of the reviews of White Lightning, which, by the way, has got 75% on the tomatometer
Versus the 23 this has or whatever.
whereas this one's got absolute garbage. Yeah. But like the reviews of the first one, like here you go, a fairly awful movie with endless car chases, which are a crushing bore. Sounds great.
Yeah.
You know, it's basically a demolition derby for the entire cast, and I'm like, this is what I mean. Is I think the first one was just like too much action. But like this time around, it was basically let me double check. I think it's a couple of years. 73.
Oh wow.
73.
Okay.
Gator 76. Smokey and the Bandit 77. But yeah, it's like it's one where it's just action and chaos and mayhem, and I'm like, that was what I think was missing in Gator. There was not enough mayhem.
Yeah. It's so interesting that Burt Reynolds kind of fits into this very bizarre category of like action star.
Yeah.
Where it was just spanned from like the 70s to early 80s, and then that was kind of it. And then he just got older and was kind of bit parts, like we had said, Cop and a Half. He had that ridiculous role in Striptease, or right?
Mm-hmm. Striptease, but he was fantastic in
Boogie Nights.
Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
He's
but
like that's classic Burt in Boogie Nights, and like he's got that great
unique. Yeah, just he's such a unique like presence in these movies.
Well, I'd say like kind of like you were saying about when it got to the 80s and it got to the muscle-bound action, stars, is that Burt Reynolds, he's a man's man. Men want to be him and women want to bang him, but he's like charming and fun, and he's out there, and like he's very much kind of like doing the sort of the blue collar action as well, in the way that Jason Statham now is trying to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Please, I work in a place, you know what I mean?
But I'm surprised they didn't because it wasn't so popular back then, but like trying to make like a legacy Smokey and the Bandit where he's training his he meets his fucking son or some nonsense like that, or
Smokey and the Bandits, the question mark.
Or his daughter grows up in Gator 4 or Origins. I don't know.
But yeah, I think he's kind of giving a voice, like if you see a lot of his movies, he's giving a voice to sort of the more southern states. He's doing a lot of Georgia-based, Texas-based, Alabama-based, that kind of stuff. The not quite Hollywood of Hollywood, even though he is one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. But like I said, he's always making sure in these movies that he shows that I'm actually okay with, I'm not a racist. I'm like, actually, these are my homies. There's always those scenes of like, no, shows you that whoever he is.
There was a crawl in the beginning of the movies. Just want to say this, get this out there.
But like, I honestly just felt disappointed.
Yeah.
Not a single airboat chase, which I'm assuming must be
not a single fucking gator except for that one dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. What the hell? How are you going to call a movie Gator and not have any fucking gators?
I know. When you hear Archer mention Gator, in my mind, I'm like, Burt Reynolds fights a gator? That's
in that episode, he's famously terrified of gators. Referencing this movie, so I had this preconceived notion that they were going to be like, they're in the swamps, there's no gators.
But I like the running joke, and apparently it's a very common one, is that it's just mixing up all the scenes from White Lightning and Gator. And it's like I said, I even made the same mistake as Archer watching it.
I gotta go back and watch that episode. Just I'm the idiot.
But all in all, it's very Georgia. I mean, it's shooting in the Okefenokee swamp, and while it does invent an imaginary sort of like area, I mean, you can tell
it's real to me. Yeah,
it did. Yeah, like some Googling, and I go, it must be. Where is it on Google Maps, and where is this town, and what's going on? But a lot of it's being shot down there. A lot of it's on location. You can tell there's no like studio.
No. No studio would allow this.
Yeah. They're on a beach. They're in a swamp. I mean, can you imagine? Like we talked about it when we did Swamp Thing, just from the level of making the movie. Making this movie in a swamp that's like 300,000 acres or whatever it is. I'm like, oh my God, man.
Even in the beginning, when Gator's driving into town with Greenfield, they're driving over that bridge, and he goes, "Yeah, what's that over there?" And he goes, "I thought it was Jersey or something." They have this like great little banter back and forth.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like
I like that too. It just shows you how charming Burt Reynolds is.
Yes. But I would also say that their little interplay, those two characters, I think is the sort of like the proto relationship for what then happens with Buford T. Justice and the Bandit in the second one. It's
in
like
the diner scene,
yeah. I mean, like, so, I'm going to just do it.
For sure.
We are doing it. We're segueing over to Smokey and the Bandit.
One last thing, when Greenfield is in the hospital, like trying to break out of the hospital, he is somehow in the hospital bed next to the only other Jewish person in all of Georgia. And they have this like this shtick, I will say this, like they have this Yiddish banter back and forth that was pretty funny to me. They just keep going like, "Hey, hey!" It was just, I thought it was funny.
So like I was saying, Gator is one thing it's definitely got going for it is it's very, very sort of Georgian movie. Whereas Smokey and the Bandit is actually the story of trying to go from Atlanta to Texas and back for a bet. So it's not necessarily set very much in Georgia. What I was really noticing on this watch is I think it's about like it's the spirit of someone from Georgia. It's very much like even in the very beginning. So this movie, just like Gator, starts with a Jerry Reed song, which I mean it's on my playlist.
All the lyrics are the plot points.
Yes.
But it's
expository theme song. Hell yeah.
It's a man called Bandit from Atlanta, GA. That's like one of the absolute lines in that song. And it's like,
it's called Westbound and Down, or
no, that one's just called like that's the Bandit kind of intro song, and then. Okay. The famous song is Eastbound and Down, but I do like at the beginning, I know we're jumping here very quickly, but when they are driving west to Texas for that 10-minute montage.
That's what I was wondering.
Westbound and Down. Right. So it's like, okay.
He's like, I got to record 2 songs? Come on.
So as I sort of like mentioned before, once or twice, I've seen this movie 10,000 times.
In boarding school?
Even before boarding school. This is a movie that I grew up on. So did my brothers and I. It just had this sort of thing. But for me as a kid, I'm just watching this guy with a cool mustache driving around causing trouble in his car. And it wasn't until the 90s when I watched it again, when I found the VHS, like I was saying, that I realized there's actually a plot to this movie. There's a reason he's in this fast car. It's actually explained.
So your brother had seen this movie and then showed it to you? Was that like your introduction to this film?
No, I think it was a movie that came on like in the UK on TV. My dad had said, "You'll like this." We recorded it off TV. I remember my dad, like saying, quoting, "I'll barbecue your ass in molasses." It just had all these lines. So no one, it's just, I would say it's not a movie that was introduced to us. It is our family's movie. You know what I mean? It just, there's no time in my memory where I haven't known this movie.
So on the Pettigrew coat of arms, it's a Trans Am logo, a Coors Light.
100%, mate. Like,
and Sally Field.
And Sally Field, exactly, because exactly what I was going to say. But it's only when I got to the age of 19, when I watched it again, that I realized the plot of the movie. The plot of the movie being that Burt Reynolds is the Bandit, or Bo Bandit Darville. He's a famous truck driver. He's got an awesome rig with that whole thing on the side. He's just a bit of a legendary truck racer. He's just living on his reputation. And there's these 2 guys with too much money, Big and Little Enos Burdett. The movie literally opens with another trucker getting busted for bootlegging, which you can't take cars east of Texas because that's bootlegging. We have to get into the laws of that one in a minute.
I was going to say, is that really a thing? That cannot be a thing.
That was definitely a thing.
Then, yeah.
Yes, definitely a thing back then, that you couldn't take that any further east because of very specific laws and stuff like that. But basically what they do is they challenge the Bandit. He's got 48 hours or something, it's 28 hours to go from Atlanta, pick up 400 cases of Coors and get back from Texarkana, Texas, and get back in 28 hours. Because they want to get wants to celebrate.
It's a slim margin, because when they get to the booze, he's like, we're an hour ahead of schedule. And that time slowly dwindles down to we're 28 minutes ahead, 25 minutes, and all these things keep happening. So it really is like a ticking clock on top of this chase sequence or road trip thing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't wait around. It gets us. I mean, our introduction to Burt is he's just looking cool and he's a this is a classic Burt laugh.
The man is in a hammock with a hat down.
Yeah. So cool. And this basically so they bet him $80,000, which is basically $350,000 in today's money. Okay, this is serious cash. So he takes his truck, he goes and picks up Snowman Jerry Reed, who's just apparently doing nothing but making children his entire life. But this is where we're introduced to kind of the plan, because then the sexiest car of my entire life, the Trans Am, the Pontiac Trans Am, the 70s.
Well, he convinces them. He's like, I'm going to need a fast car.
Speedy car.
And he's like, he starts counting the money.
Speedier than that.
That was really funny.
If
Paul
at any
Williams
point,
is so great in this.
Who we also had in Baby Driver, Remember
Yes.
when we did Baby Driver? He turned up as a little cameo because of his role as Little Enos in this movie. Because Edgar Wright, much like me, thinks this movie
There it
rules.
is. There it
There
is.
we go. But yeah, so this is, like I said, so this is the actual plotline. Because why is this guy driving around causing fucking like nonsense all around town, all around these states? Is because they need a blocker. So he's got this fast car that he's going to drive around and cause trouble. So the cops are looking for him instead of spotting Snowman in the truck driving 100 miles an hour trying to get to Texas. I'm like, wait, that's the plot? Now it makes sense.
Yeah, it's also an incredibly thin plot, and again, so low stakes.
Right.
Like, to just get Coors of all beers, like we couldn't even spring for Bud Light. I mean, because it wasn't woke back then, so it wasn't hard to get.
They
But
didn't do light beer back then. It was just stronger beer. And do you want beer with lead in it?
right?
If we made it now, it would be fucking White Claw. Let's
Yeah. Mike's Hard Lemonade,
Oh.
bootlegging that.
Yeah.
So that's what was cracking me up is the entire time I'm like, for Coors, are we sure? Is this worth all this, guy?
Well, now, Will, I would agree with you about the very thin script if the script didn't, like, the plot didn't change, because we, in the space of 10 minutes, we have gone 4 states over. We're at Texarkana, Texas. We get that great sort of funny scene where, I mean, again, another sort of like, that is Burt Reynolds on a forklift. That's Jerry Reed.
That's him flying over.
Yeah.
Like, dude,
Yeah.
This is fucking dangerous. How many takes did they do? Like this?
I think
probably
one.
one. Yeah.
yeah.
It's felt so dangerous.
I never even clocked that, like, oh my God, that's actually them. And oh, that's dangerous. Like I said, even a movie I've seen 1,000 times, I get to watch again with this bloody podcast. I do enjoy it. But once we turn around, we've loaded up the truck, we're heading eastbound and down. That's when, while we're still in Texas, we're introduced to the cutest woman of the 1970s, Sally Field, in a wedding dress, stuck on the side of the road. He just skirts to the end, like gets her in, and we're off to the races. And we're like, okay, well, what's going on here? And then we are introduced to the foil of this movie. And did you guys, I mean, Will, did you know Jackie Gleason was in this movie before you watched it?
Oh, did I know? I didn't know he was in it. I know who Jackie Gleason was.
Right.
I'm very, very familiar with Jackie Gleason, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I saw the credits. I'm like, oh, Jackie Gleason's, and he's playing a guy named Buford T. Justice.
It's
Hell
amazing.
yeah.
I kept that very close to my chest. I did want that to be a surprise because the absolute joy of this movie is every time Jackie Gleason opens his mouth, it is so funny. And it probably come as no surprise to you that he improvised basically everything in this movie.
Yeah, I doubt a single line was scripted.
It was
or
so
if there
good.
was a script, he's just like, no, I'm not doing that.
I think he also petitioned to he's like, no, you got to have, I need someone in the car with me. Like to bounce off of. Otherwise, it's just
his
me
big
by myself.
blockhead son.
Oh
Yes.
Who's fantastic.
His big, super handsome, just dumb as rock son, who just, and it's brilliant idea. It's that because you've just got this Muppet that he can constantly just like look
He
at. He
has a line. He's like, I can't believe you came from my
no.
loins.
There's okay. You want it?
All
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
There's no way that you came from my loins. When I get home, I'm gonna punch your mama in the mouth. And it's just
I clutch my pearls at that. I was like,
Yeah.
you can't say that, sir.
he is one of the most quotable characters in just the whole of movies. So basically, his son, his dumb son, is the one that got left at the altar by Sally Field. She's run off. He's been picked up. So now he's I decorated the entire town that cost $40. So he's just, for him, he is a Texas lawman, a Texas sheriff who is determined that he is going to get this girl. The girl is now riding with the bandit. And the bandit, as we have established earlier, is kind of a bit of a legend. But I can explain that because he is a viral star. Because he is a viral star in the world of CB radio.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it was chlamydia. Sure.
But this is another one of those movies, because another one is like Convoy and stuff like that.
Oh, right.
This time in the world, CB radios, especially in America, were kind of a big thing. It's how people would communicate. They all had their handle, which is no different from people's online handles and stuff like that. And so he was kind of like a viral star of being a kind of legendary trucker, a legendary truck racer. And then when he's sort of doing all this as well, that like, you know, that spirit of the South, the fact that NASCAR came from doing stuff like this, you know, he's kind of like the Bandit. He's this legendary sort of thumbs his nose at authority, goes off and has fun, you know, fast driving guy, you know, getting the ladies. And I'm just on board for this whole movie.
I just thought it was like, and much maybe because we watched the Blues Brothers so recently, I just thought like every person that was like, that would have a one line of dialogue either over CB radio or talking to a cop was like a famous, like a
movie director,
a singer at the time. Like, am I supposed to know who this is? But I don't, because it's the 70s.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like, this has to be a cameo fest of like everybody who was like famous on TV. Like anybody who would have been on like Battle of the Network Stars was in this movie, like something like that.
Gotcha. No, you're actually like, you know, when you said that, Ryan, I was like, you know, I'm watching it again. It's the sort of, there's a bunch of different truckers, each having one line that, yeah, you're not wrong. There's a guy that was a famous American actor and politician. You got another guy, former American football player. Another guy who's a famous American character actor, turned up a bunch of Westerns. Like he was in the TV show, The Lone Ranger. So there were all kinds of people turning up. But yes, like you're saying, it's references and cameos that are just shooting over our head.
Yeah, gotcha.
Because, you know, we're only 60 years.
That was. I feel like they're feeding these lines like I'm supposed to know who this person is, but I'm way out of this timeline.
And also for people who might not know who because Jackie Gleason goes back a real long ways in comedy. For people who don't really know who he is, he's like Robin Williams' inspiration. Is like his whole story. He was like known as like the improv comedy guy, and you can go and find old stuff from him that's very, very funny.
But, like, legend.
Yeah, but like he does not have a Southern accent in real life. Like this is like a full character he's putting on, and just so milking it with that thin mustache, which is so funny.
When you first meet him, he gets out of the cop car. He just goes like this, and the guy hands him the cigarette.
Yes,
and he's like, and he
backwards.
It's just really just like. That's what we were talking about with Gator, like the problem with Gator. Like this really like figured it out and nailed it. Like the comedy just works. The action sequences are fantastic, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's just a fun movie.
Yeah, you're having fun, and you can tell because the music's having fun.
Yeah,
it's just like it's because that's for me. I'm just always bopping along and like, you know, we're all just picking at the bloody banjo and all this stuff's going on.
Fun.
I mean, and even Eastbound and Down. Eastbound and Down is a song that I've got actually. Every now and again, it pops up on my Facebook. But my very good friend of mine, Brad, and I came to America. We did a road trip, and we're driving from LA to Vegas. We've rented a pretty cool Mustang, and there's a video of me. We're playing Eastbound and Down. I'm doing this. We go past a truck. We do the whole thing. The truck honks its horns. We're like, yay! And then there is another video from 10 minutes later of me being pulled over by the police. And I talked my way out of a ticket. I was going 105 on the highway. This guy pulls me over next to a sign that says 60 miles an hour. And I got myself out of it by going, I handed my Singapore
ID. Ever seen
ID.
Smokey and the Bandit?
Yeah, right. But I honestly, yes. I was like, sorry, sir, it's just an American muscle car. We got super excited. We were listening to Eastbound and Down. And then I managed to segue into I drive the cash cab. And then the guy, I could have gone to jail. And but I was like, we had our own Smokey and the Bandit moment.
For being too British is what
for not driving fast enough.
You're going too slow, boy.
You were in the wrong lane.
But Eastbound and Down is a song that I always knew this, but yeah, you look it up. But very famously, Jerry Reed, they say he's like Hal Needham's like we need a song, and Jerry Reed goes off, comes back the next day, just literally overnight in a couple of hours, to just like put together, plays it acoustically on the guitar. Hal Needham stops him, and he's like, "Oh, whoa, okay, you want me to change it?" No, Hal Needham's like, "If you change one note, I will kill you." This song rips, and the thing is, it does, and it just adds this momentum to the thing, and then they start getting like
it's chords
involved and stuff like that.
It's the heartbeat of this movie for sure.
Yeah,
100%, and it's just It's so random.
Then he's like, I need you to do a version for Westbound and Down. He's like, no, fuck you. I'm not doing it. I'm out.
Yeah.
How dare you? I'm
Find
insulted.
someone else. Yeah.
Almost ruined the film.
So this is something I did not know. Okay, because it's like Will mentioned, like, you know, when you first see Jackie Gleason, is also Jackie Gleason as Buford T. Justice. Buford T. Justice was the real name of a Florida highway patrolman known to Burt Reynolds' dad. Buford T. Justice.
Wow.
Like, that's
You
just...
have to go into law enforcement with that name. Like,
Yeah, it's legally required.
And apparently it was Burt Reynolds' dad was also the inspiration for Some Bitch. I just love the way Jackie Gleason says, "You some bitch," and it's
some bitch.
it's just, and it's
he is. There's a lot to love in this movie, but he was my favorite part of this.
Yeah,
this
for
movie.
sure.
As it should be. He is the greatest kind of like foil. And it's like, you know, you even get to the like end of the movie where they've got this respect for each other. And can I just say, you're the darndest pursuee I've ever pursued. You know what I mean? It's just.
Now I haven't seen the other two, I haven't seen the other two films. Is he also in them, or?
Yes, in fact, so the second one,
he becomes the good guy.
So you got the second one, which brings the whole crew back and adds Dom DeLuise and an elephant. Honestly, the second one, it doesn't have the magic of the first one, but it does end with an action scene that, as a child, I was obsessed with, where you've got the bandit. They're trying to get this elephant to a place. Now, Buford T. Justice calls two of his cousins, which he also is playing as. So you've got Jackie Gleason playing three roles in the movie.
Oh my God.
You've got the Canadian Mountie one.
Eddie Murphy would never do that.
Yeah. But what you end up with is this action scene that, honestly, I'll send you guys a link to on YouTube. But it pits the bandit up against something like 100 police cars in the desert, right? But then Snowman turns up with like 100 trucks, and it is a 25-30 minute action scene of complete carnage in the desert. And I'm like I said, as a 12, 11-year-old boy, greatest movie ever made.
Sequence that would make Stephen King come in his pants.
I was gonna say this sounds like
Maximum Overdrive.
I was gonna say a redneck Avengers Endgame. Like,
it is.
I need backup, and we got you, good buddy.
So then,
I'm into it.
Then the third movie. Okay, so originally, I don't know if you know this, but Jerry Reed was cast as the bandit. But then, they got Burt involved. They put him into being Snowman. But the third movie is actually Jerry Reed as posing as the bandit. You still have Buford T. Justice on. In pursuit, and in this case, instead of it being the 76 Trans Am, they're using the Trans Am from Knight Rider. So the third one is kind of a bit weird and esoteric, and it's just more of the same. If you really
Burt Reynolds isn't in that one.
He only turns up in a momentary cameo when, like, Buford comes up to talk to the bandit. Jerry Reed goes, wait, because he's got the mustache and the hat, and he's just basically, and he turns, and it kind of goes, and it's almost like it's what Buford is seeing. So you get a moment where he only turns up for a second. So like, it is very much one of those laws of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
But you understand why a sequel was made when this like $5 million movie that was originally planned as a low budget $1 million movie went on to make
crazy to me.
It made $127 million, which in today's money is like $1 billion. In 1977. Like I said, the only movie that made more money was Star Wars.
Never heard of it.
Is that an indie?
It's a little B movie made by some guy called Jorge Lucas or something like that.
Yeah, so it's a rip off of Star Trek. One of those.
I thought that was a Wu-Tang sweatshirt. God damn it!
No, not me, baby.
Ooh.
That is a dope hoodie, though. By the way, I like that one.
Actually, I do have like a Wu-Tang hoodie in the closet, so got that covered too. But that's funny. Like, it made that, like, that's the kind of money where like even Hollywood accounting can't hide those profits.
Yeah,
that's one where they got to admit, like, shit, this made money. They can't cut anybody out.
This must have sold so many I think I've read it sold so many Trans Ams were so popular. It sold a fuck ton of CB radios.
Yeah, yep, it did. It absolutely. I mean, it just became like a thing, and it was also Jerry Reed's biggest hit was Eastbound and Down. And like in every single way, and like we've talked about this before, that sometimes it's just the way Like it's just the right director and actor, the right
Lightning in
time
a
of year,
bottle. Yeah.
the right exactly. This is one of those movies where you've just put everything together. Sally Field and Burt Reynolds into play. I mean, they actually ended up like dating. I think they were engaged at one point. I think
their chemistry was so like it didn't
Yes.
feel like written dialogue at all. It just felt like, all right, let's get them in the car and just do whatever and just be yourselves, be charming. And it felt so refreshing for a movie of this time period.
Another thing I really like in this movie, and I think it's what makes it sort of timeless in a way, is that they're shooting all of their scenes where they're talking in the car, talking on the CB radio, driving in the truck, whatever. They're driving on the road. Now, I know they've got a rig, but they're never using rear projection or anything like that. It's like, again, this is another movie that was not made in any way in a studio.
A very dangerous movie.
Yeah, guys, we're going to... I mean, there are a couple of times when that Trans Am comes tearing around those back road corners, like...
drifting that, I mean...
Holy shit!
Where they jump... I mean, that first thing where they jump over the bridge, right? Like, it's like such a famous, like... actual practical car stunt that always pops up on the list. Like destroyed that car, and then the two cop cars go.
Yeah. Now, which came first? Did this come before Dukes of Hazzard? Because like it felt like Dukes of Hazzard tried to rip this off, but I don't know if I have that reverse.
You don't. You got it exactly right. Dukes of Hazzard came out in 79 through 85. I was obsessed with that TV show as well. As a kid. I've told you my plan, right?
Sean William Scott, sure,
yeah,
it's great.
But I've told you my plan if I win the lottery is like, so I wanted to buy the 76 Trans Am from from Smokey and the Bandit. I want to get the Mustang either from Bullet or the one from Gone in 6 Seconds, and then it's the 76 Dodge Charger or 79 Dodge Charger from Dukes of Hazzard. But instead of having the Confederate flag and calling it the General Lee, I'm going to put the British flag on top and call it the Generally. And I'm like, that's it. That's just what I'm going to do. If I ever have fuck you money, that's what I'm doing. It's getting the Generally. But like, it's just this movie changed the way, like you said, going back very quickly, you said everyone wanted a car, everyone had a CB radio, everyone was talking on CBs.
Everyone had a mustache.
But not just in America. That's the thing. This movie wasn't just like a massive hit in the States. This movie was a massive hit around the world. And I would say that if this is the movie that is the reason I'm in America and I'm doing this podcast, this was the movie that made me love what is America's wild and crazy and
was this released before Star Wars in 77?
It was, I think, almost back to back. Let me try and look into that. But
Just
it was
curious,
like they were out at the same time, I believe. This also remember back in the day, guys, like when a movie came out at theaters, they stayed for months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in the 70s, they were there. Oh, you've got like 2 months to go and see a movie. Whereas now, if it doesn't hit in 7, 8, like we were talking Strange Darling the other day, it's like it's in and out of theaters in like a week if they don't feel like it's making enough money.
Yeah, that's funny though that this is like what everyone around the world would think of when they think of America. Is they're just like, wow, America is nothing but moonshine, beer running, and Sally Field on the side of the road. America must be great.
Well, and Sally Field's bottom in those jeans, just wonderful. Here we go. Legal status of Coors beer. Here we go.
Okay.
In 1977, Coors was unavailable for sale east of Texas. Its lack of additives and preservatives meant that Coors could spoil in 1 week without refrigeration, which also explains why there's a 28-hour deadline. They've got to get the beer there before it spoils.
Non-refrigerated trucks, too.
Okay.
So Coors was coveted for its lack of stabilizers and preservatives. And future President Gerald Ford, after a trip to Colorado, actually hid some in his luggage to take back to Washington, D.C.
A president did something illegal? Hold on. I don't believe it.
There's more. President Eisenhower had a steady supply. So Eisenhower had a steady supply airlifted to Washington as well. So yeah, basically it's just there's a very specific sort of rule, and it seems to be like to do with like as well the way that it was made, but you couldn't go east of Texas with Coors.
That's so interesting.
That's why
because you watching this now, you're like, it's such an innocuous thing. You're like that. Why it's like Coors? Who cares?
Yeah, it's like go to the store. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, we live in a world when you live in Arizona. It's like, oh, I can order weed to my door. You know, right?
Yeah,
this feels like it should be illegal.
Yeah. What a different time. That's sort of like that's so I'm those context. Like I remember bringing it back to Jaws for a second, for a long time when Quint like crushes the beer can, being like, okay, like what is, that's so lost on me until you find out like, oh, beer cans back then were like real thick aluminum, like you actually couldn't crush them quite.
If you did, you just die.
Yeah. I'm like, that's the context I'm missing. So I get it now. This is similar. Like,
okay, that's cool.
I've got some more sort of juicy here we go, facts on Smokey and the Bandit. But this is kind of cool because it was a sleeper hit. It's one of those movies that was like, you should go see this movie. You should go see this movie. So when it actually like premiered in New York, it did not do well. But when it opened in the South, Memorial Day weekend, it started making some money, right? So then by the end of June, it's playing in Charlotte, Atlanta, Jacksonville, New Orleans, Memphis, Dallas, Oklahoma. Then it opened in the northern states in July. So like this is over like a couple of months of growth. So it made, like I said, 120 million. I was wrong, guys. It made 120 million in North America. The only movie that made...
The only America.
So Star Wars made 220. But the worldwide gross for Smokey and the Bandit is over 300 million.
Now, can you convert that to cans of Coors Light for me?
Yeah, that's 85 quintillion.
Nice.
Now back to dollars.
But like, oh my god, like
quintillion would be the name of Quint's Bitcoin from Jaws.
I'll kill her for 10 quintillion.
I'm just looking at this place. So you're right. This movie basically made CB super popular, Pontiac Trans Am. Another thing is it made like the Diablo sandwich that Sheriff Justice orders.
I thought it was a chicken sandwich, but no, it's like a sloppy Joe, but spicier.
It's like pulled pork with hot sauce in like a hamburger bun. And that scene as well was really another one of
the best.
That was another one of Jackie Gleason's ideas as well. He's like, no, we have to have this scene. And the way Jackie Gleason comes in at 11 and stays there. What? I don't need that. He's like, I need a Diablo sandwich. I'm a hot pursuit. It's just like
that whole bit is great because they've never met. They've talked on the radio, and you get this like playful nature. He's like, I'll pay for your sandwich, and then like him running out. But like this game of cat and mouse between the two of them, like they're always kind of in the same place.
Yeah.
Like when he's filling up with gas, he just happens to be over there, but you get that shot of him. He's like, let's go. And there he's tied up to the fucking the tow truck.
Yeah.
You just get his son on the hood of the car. Like, it's fucking funny.
It's such a Bugs Bunny dynamic. Yeah. Like he had, like it's to the point where like he even like looks down the barrel of the camera at one point just to be like,
11 minutes or whatever it is. Like and they never do it again.
No.
Like that first car chase, I took a picture and I texted this. I'm like, what is going on here? This is insane.
But I think it's that I love that bit down the barrel because he goes, no, we're having a good time and you're having a good time, guys. We're all going to have a good time in this movie. And you do.
But a movie shouldn't need to do that. Like this movie already does that. That kind of took me out of it a little bit.
What I also like is the long running joke of as the chase goes on, Buford T. Justice's car is getting more and more.
It's all evidence. It's all evidence.
Yeah.
It's just getting more and more fucked up. So they take that to an extreme degree in the second one that like by the end of the second movie, his car is a concertina like triangle. So that like they're sitting on the top of it. And it's just like I said, it's one of those stupid things. I go, all right, guys, let's ramp things up a bit.
It's such a funny thing. Like this movie should, like, hindsight being 2020, this movie should have never gotten a sequel, but you can tell why, because it made so much money and they just didn't know how to kind of like do more but the same. So I can tell it just kind of like fumble down, and then by the third one, like you mentioned, it's just like, what are we doing here?
It's when a movie makes this much money, you're like legally required to do a sequel. It's a Joker 2 situation, you know.
But they're gonna they'll remake Smokey and the Bandit with Chris Pratt or
good, and that will be the good version. Yeah.
But like I like as well is that I noticed as I'm watching it, I could see there were a couple of redub lines. So they toned down some of the swearing.
Yeah.
But like what I did like is the one time that you can tell that Buford tells him to fuck off, they have the
that was funny.
And it's a really funny like because hold on, it gets up and he's like, you have no idea who I'm the most respected, the most decorated sheriff in North America. And he's like, don't you speak like that or use language, and gets in and goes, fuck off, and drives off.
So now it's funny. Like I'm thinking like Edgar Wright would have shot that scene. It would have been like all the traffic backed up. Every time he would swear, it would just be like cars honking to muffle out. Like, there would have been like a clever way to do it. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
Another thing,
but he's so out of his jurisdiction. Like, how does he?
Well,
he's
he's
such
also
a physical presence that no one's like, all right, I don't want to fucking deal with this guy.
Yeah.
But he's also got his kind of like his casual misogyny and his casual racism as well.
Oh,
like
when he discovers that first chief is black, he's like, I thought you were taller?
Yeah. Funny. Y'all sounded taller on the radio. And I'm like, but that's a great line to show, okay, that's kind of who this
it doesn't
guy
cross
is.
the line. You because he's very text, like, I get it.
But then and just
offensive.
like I was saying with Gator, what do we then get is, you get scenes where, Snowman's going into a choke and puke, and he's friends with all of the, the guys that work there, but they're all black, you know what I mean? And then we get that, he gets the shit kicked out of him by those bikers who are just dickheads. But then, he runs over the truck, like all the bikes and stuff.
I was wondering, like, what if those set of bikes weren't their bikes and he just destroyed like someone else coming out like, hey.
Yeah, it's like a bunch of dentists who have a writing club and they're just like, what happened? Yeah.
Like as it builds and the momentum builds and we're sort of like we're ticking off states, and we're ticking off Mississippi or Arkansas or whatever, and the buzz, he's going viral over CB, so now people are like on the side of the street and they're holding up signs and
ridiculous.
People are coming out to help him out, and like exactly, I was like, well, everybody knows they're so guilty, and it just builds up to this chase that instead of going too far, like Ryan said about like the Blues Brothers is like, it's a bit too much. This one is always just like edging you perfectly because it's got like the goofiness, the amazingness, some great stunts, but the music for me, because they're doing Eastbound and Down, but like I said, they're getting all the horns going, and it's just even sounds like the orchestra is having a good time playing this. You know what I mean? For the sort of song, and it builds up to that whole bit where we're 4 miles to go. There's no way they can get away with this. The helicopter's over the top, and then we send the truck through. I love this movie. It is, my happy place. It's making me even tear up right now. Just going, the fact this movie got made.
I was really worried I wasn't going to like this movie just because.
I was fucking terrified.
As you should be. Everybody gets one. But no, I thoroughly enjoyed this. And I was like, I was worried that even. I forgot what it was that we watched recently. It was just like a very old, very famous movie I had never seen, but this was top notch. T to B, fucking loved it.
Yeah, such a fun
from T to Bandit.
Movie.
Yeah.
I had a great time.
So relieved.
It is. You said it's like such a cartoon movie. It's so fun.
But I did consider real quick, like messing with you the whole week and just cryptic messages, being like, I guess we got to talk about these movies, and then springing on you that I really liked it. That was Ollie the entire week.
That was a choice.
Yeah,
I was gonna be like, oh, Burt Reynolds is in this.
Yeah. Well, it's just so much that I love. Like, the lines that now, like I said, they live inside my family's like quotations, and even just like all that CB slang of a Texas county mountie, and like it's just you got to smoke a beer in your back door, and it just is so.
I thought going into this movie, I thought Smokey was another character, not what you would generally call Highway Patrol.
Yeah. Right. Oh, like Bama, like Gator.
Yeah. I thought Smokey was Sally Field's character's name.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be Smokey from the movie Friday and Burt Reynolds.
That's the movie we need. Yeah.
That's the rush hour we should have gotten. Jackie Chan, get out of here.
Exactly.
God, I could talk about a million scenes in this movie that I like the bit where where they actually run blocker, where finally that Snowman gets pulled over by a motorbike cop in Georgia, and so they just peel up. Frog flips him off. We go off, and then they use all the trucks to hide, kind of things.
That was cool.
It's just. You just want to do it.
Set pieces, yeah. There's so many good set pieces in this movie. They all work, and they're not like it's so good that we did this and Gator, so you can see the difference between like an all right movie and like a movie that is like trimmed of any fat. Like this movie is paced so well, and the action doesn't overstay its welcome. It's not like, I'm not talking bad about Blues Brothers, but even some of those action sequences just go on a little bit too long, I think. Mm-hmm. And this is just set to the pace, and it's just go go go.
Yeah,
For me, it's one of the it's in my list of perfect movies. It's there with the Goonies. It's there with Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's there with I wouldn't change.
It's funny because
single
you've
thing.
never, like, honestly, you've never brought up this movie until we mentioned doing it for this episode.
I feel like I said I didn't want
You were
you
too
guys
scared.
to shit all over the most treasured movie of my entire life.
There's going to be so many more opportunities for that.
exactly. No,
Tell us more about your deepest, darkest, favorite secret movies.
Well, slowly ruin your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting to see this movie. Like you said, the comparison between this and Gator, where it's like you just tweak the formula a little bit and it works. You know, if it's just a smidge or two off, it falls apart. Like the premise is just like, yeah, this is doesn't have enough of this. And again, with mostly the same people behind the camera, you know, you've even got some of the same actors.
Yeah, mostly just the same everything, same crew,
Yeah.
cast, music, you know, vibe, but yeah, they are chalk and cheese.
It's just you just tweak it a little bit and then it works. You know,
If you've got room to watch two movies this week and you're looking at Gator and Smokey and the Bandit, watch Smokey and the Bandit and then watch Smokey and the Bandit again. Yes, you're gonna have 17,000 times more fun than if you watched Gator as well.
Instead of watching Gator, just watch that one episode of Archer, like we mentioned.
Exactly. Yeah, way more fun to watch.
But the thing is, unfortunately, that here at the podcast, we're not talking about what's the best movie. We're talking about what's the most Georgia movie. Now, the movie that we crowned champion last time around was the very charming movie, the prime movie, Troop Zero.
Inexplicably.
Well,
Yeah.
I remember the reason we did it was because it just gave us so much of the different
true. That is
lifestyles and different people from Georgia, because they had their little ragtag group and they're all from, like, there are some poor kids and some rich kids, and it brings the whole sort of variety of it together. Now, Gator, it starts in the Georgia swamps. It's very much a sort of like a Georgia set story. It does bring a lot of like that southern vibe. And then, kind of like I was saying, Smokey and the Bandit starts and ends in Georgia, but also involves Arkansas and Mississippi and Texas and all these other ones in the middle. But like I was sort of saying at the beginning, is it brings that kind of vibe of, this is like a Georgia guy. It's got more of like the Georgia mindset of southern and fun and adventure and like beer and just like, it got a certain charm about it. So I wanted to sort of throw it out there, that where are you guys like feeling about this one?
As much as I enjoyed Smokey and the Bandit more, the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, because you get that asterisk of, yeah, it's more of like a road trip cross state lines kind of thing, whereas Gator is like very fucking Georgia, like everything about it. So I'm going to have to say Gator is the more Georgia film of the two.
Do you think it's more Georgia than Troop Zero?
I don't remember.
Full
disclosure, forgot we watched that movie.
I've been wanting to call it F Troop, which I'm realizing now is a totally different thing.
Yes, it is.
So I don't really. The only thing I remember about Troop Zero is
Jim Gaffigan,
but also just isn't the end of that movie the big third act, like we won, involved people pissing their pants? Isn't that like?
There was some pissing of pants. Yes.
Isn't that like the big climax of the movie?
But like, it's they want to send something into space that on the gold record was that kind of like, so that's what
I didn't even remember that till just a second.
Allison Janney runs the band.
Allison Janney's in it.
Yeah.
Yes. Viola Davis is in it. It's like, it's a pretty legit, like,
I don't think I watched this movie. I think
you're thinking of
I'll need to
October
see
Sky.
Yeah, exactly.
Stand by me.
I need to go back and watch the tape. I don't think I've seen this film. But I will say, in Smokey and the Bandit's favor, I think it was all shot in Georgia. Like, I think it takes place. Like they get a sign.
It doesn't feel like any of those states are different. It does.
Yeah, I think it said
does,
at the end, it's like filmed, like, with the cooperation.
That is true.
I think it's all filmed there.
I think Gator also had that.
Gator is also you can't deny it's.
Well, I mean,
the Georgia.
as someone who's done pretty much the exact drive, I've done through Texarkana to Atlanta. They really do all blend and bleed together. And especially back in the 70s as well, as you know, it's because they're all on back roads as well. And like, it looks like Texas back roads, looks like Georgia back roads. But that's kind of like what I was saying, is it's got the vibe. It's got the vibe of a guy But like, yeah, no,
You
keep going.
really
Will.
wanted to win. You're pushing.
Yeah, just because I think it is all filmed there. I think that puts it point in its favor, but the story itself, God, it does suck to say, but like the story itself is like Gator just lends itself more to like this is Georgia. Like we're not pretending it's somewhere else. We're not, shooting it for something else.
I mean, and just to remind everybody that Troop Zero took down Deliverance and Baby Driver last time around.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
My God.
this Baby Driver is very much at like
Atlanta. Yeah.
Just like that's in Atlanta. Like, and then Deliverance, I don't know how that lost.
I don't. Yeah, I just didn't like Deliverance. That's the only thing I remember about it. But
putting it next to Gator, woof, that's a
God, I don't know.
film.
I both were thoroughly unenjoyable, or experiences I did not enjoy. So
You didn't like Deliverance?
No, because we talked about it on the podcast where that was like the fourth.
Not enough rape.
Not enough. No, but like that was like the fourth John Borman movie I've seen, and that's where I decided like, I don't think I like this guy. Like as
it's fair. It's fair.
Because I've never seen any of his movies that I like. So, unfortunately,
I want to give it to Smokey and the Bandit.
Yeah,
I do. I just
that's where I'm
think
struggling.
I just don't think it's any more Georgia than.
Well, no. I mean, if we're going to look at this mathematically, right, is that you have, like we've said, the same star, the same co-star, the same director or second unit director, the same vibe, but one of them is specifically entirely set in Georgia. We mathematically cannot pick Smokey and the Bandit because the exact same movie is on the other side.
To the
just
listener at home, Ollie is starting to cry. He is tearing up. Very emotional day.
For a bad way. But yeah, I'm kind of with you guys, is that it almost has to be Gator.
Yeah.
Because what Gator is doing is, more than Troop Zero, is bringing a little bit of that sort of rebel nature of the southern states.
That said, Gator only gets 2 out of 10 teeth.
Yeah.
And and it did immolate a cat lady and stuff like that. But I kind of
that does put 50 points in its favor. I do like that.
I just because it is Burt Reynolds and because it is Hal Needham and Jerry Reed, in every way, it's a worse movie, but it's got more Georgia to it. I think it has to go to Gator.
Yeah. Geographically speaking, I mean, you get the swamp, you get the inner city, you get the fancy posh hotel, you get the beach. I mean, it's like all of the landmarks. I honestly thought that town was Dutton?
Dutton County or something. Dutton County is Dustin County.
Something like that. Like you're the Lauren Dutton. I thought that place was real. I was like,
me
okay,
too.
Great. Yeah. It felt very like it just felt like a bigger scope, even considering that Smokey and the Bandit goes across multiple states.
That was weird. Like I said, going back, Dunstan County. It's why come up with a fake one? But then again, it happens in a lot of movies. But that for me was like, I guess maybe it's because of all the child prostitution.
It could be onto something.
So I think it's almost like reluctantly that it seems we're all kind of in lockstep here. That we
don't like it. We don't like it.
We don't.
Yeah.
Like I said,
it's arguably the more Georgia film.
When it comes to recommending movies, I would say don't bother with Gator.
No.
Probably find White Lightning, but for the love of God, if you haven't, like these two Muppets, finally let Smokey and the Bandit into your life because it will bring nothing but fun and joy. With Sally Field and Jackie Gleason and Jerry Reed and the music and Burt Reynolds and the Trans Am and Hal Needham and everything else, it comes together in one of the most fun movies ever made. And fortunately, it's also a loser because the official movie here at the United States of Movie Podcast to represent Georgia for the rest of time, or at least until season 3, is the movie Gator, made in 1976. It's the directorial debut of Burt Reynolds, starring Burt Reynolds. It doesn't have Sally Field in it, and that's probably why it's not the greatest movie ever made. So, what a random champion we've ended up with, guys. But
I guarantee we'll forget about it by the time we look this up.
Right.
Like,
we're gonna look back.
Did this win? How did this beat Smokey and the Bandit?
We're gonna look back and be like, Troop what and Gator? Where are they? Troop Gator?
Well, I tell you what, then the
Ooh, true
responsibility comes to us then for next time around, trying to find some movies that are gonna try and like maybe hit the nail bang on the head. And there are plenty of movies set in Georgia. We were circling quite a few of them on the text thread before we decided let's just do a full Burt Reynolds episode. There was one that I kind of wanted to do. I believe it's a Ron Howard movie from the early 2000s. Or 2000, it's The Gift with Cate Blanchett, Keanu Reeves, Katie Holmes, and stuff like that. It was kind of like, it's a stacked cast. It's kind of like a sort of a bit of a spooky movie. It's set very much in the country. I think that would have been a strong one. And another one that I've never seen that I feel like Will, you were talking about last year, but it's Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. Are a couple of movies that I'm like, I could have gone with. Any other ones that you guys are thinking of?
Forrest Gump always pops up on that list because he's like famously from there, but that's such a large, that's like such a small piece of a bigger film, you know?
Yeah,
Right.
But he's always talking about Alabama, you know,
What?
Greenbow, Alabama.
Sally Field, still absolute smoke show.
That's right.
I just realized I just laughed like that woodpecker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Woody Woodpecker. There
edit
was, I think, Ryan, you mentioned that the original Cape Fear.
The original Cape Fear from 19, who knows?
Yeah, the not as good one. Yeah.
Gregory Peck.
Yeah.
There's you both reacted with knee jerk like hell no when I mentioned The Color Purple, which I've only ever seen once. Spielberg's
I watched it in.
I don't know if I
think-
said hell no.
I just said I think I'd watched it in school once, like for class, but I don't remember.
Yeah. Any other ones you can think of? I know there's fried green tomatoes. Isn't that
Fried Green
not?
Tomatoes pops up. I had a whole list. Sorry, I should have pulled it up.
Oh, the Dukes of Hazzard movie. Yeah, there we go. See, we could have been talking about that. I'm trying to find the one. I think we brought up Glory a few times.
Oh, Gone with the Wind was another one, right?
Actually,
Oh,
the Dukes of Hazzard movie. That is actually quite a fun one. That's directed by Jay Chandrasekhar.
Yeah.
It's like
Another movie I've only seen once.
It's pretty good, actually. I quite enjoy it for what it does.
Oh, we passed up on Medea Goes to Jail, man.
Oh man.
There's also Monsters Ball. The Oscar-winning.
I think the takeaway was a lot of sad movies set in and around Georgia, so we opted for one really sad fucking movie.
I
and
just
Gator.
I just saw on the list. I did contemplate making you guys watch it just because it's so bad that it's a lot of fun. Which is The Predator, not Predators, not the latest one, Prey, which is a great movie.
The Chris Hansen movie?
The Predator.
Is that the one directed by Shane Black?
Right? Ooh,
Yeah. Such a garbage film. That's one I saw
Pissed me
that
off.
in theaters, and it just the entire movie made me entirely furious. I'm like, why?
That's the perfect example of
so bad
when studio interference can go horribly wrong. Like everything
Yeah.
about that just got fucked.
But even with the studio interference, the stuff they were trying to do in the movie, I'm like, I can't even picture what this movie would have been like without, because it was like something like The Kid on the Autism Spectrum. It's like one of those movies where like, oh, if you're on the autism spectrum, you're actually a space genius. It's like one of those movies where you're like, Shane Black, can you like actually research this stuff? Like, and just so many other, like the whole like, oh, this predator is coming to help humanity, and spends the first 20 minutes
Dies immediately. Yeah.
dies immediately, but also spends the first 20 minutes killing every human he comes into contact with. And you're like,
Well, he's a predator. I mean, come on.
yeah,
now
but he's
we're-
also here to help. It's like,
now we're just
The
poking
movie's
holes.
not called Friend. You got
that's-
to
that's
see
the
this
Predator
amazing
movie I
action
would
movie. It's called Vegan. It just turns up and eats a bunch of carrots.
Fucking Cocaine Bear pops up on this list, and I'm like,
That's
I
not
want
quite
that.
right. No, Pitch Perfect. I've never seen Pitch Perfect. In fact, my my new German exchange wants to watch
Fried
that.
green tomatoes.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So another one that I was seeing as well is the hate you give, which is like looks like that could be kind of like a good like getting into movie. So like I said, there's actually a bunch that we can pick from. I think next time around maybe we'll do White Lightning. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I think On our next circle round for Georgia, I think we've definitely got at least 6 or 7 movies that I think can take down Gator, which I think
we are
happen.
We are gonna make a lot of enemies by not picking Smokey and the Bandit. I just want to clarify that we love that movie.
Yes,
but it's not more Georgia than
that
Gator.
Okay, look, I've got one question for you, Ryan. Did you like Smokey and the Bandit enough to create a movie poster for it?
No,
because I want that movie poster.
I mean, I'm open to commissions. I'll make it for you. I will. I'll make you a Smokey and the Bandit t-shirt. Sure.
Oh my god!
It's gonna be a can of Coors Light.
Yeah.
It's just Sally Field's head on a naked lady's body
with a Coors. So yeah, okay. Like next time around, we'll be heading to Georgia, but. Where are we going next week, guys? I believe you guys mentioned before we started rolling, we're heading to the state of Michigan. A state that we had some pretty good bangers last time, including one of the best movies. It almost won, I think, last year's championship.
Yeah, it went pretty far. Yeah.
Is RoboCop, Paul Verhoeven's RoboCop. So what movies are we thinking are we going to bring to the table that we think can take down RoboCop? One of them, I think, is a very, very strong possibility. Will, why don't you introduce one of the movies that we're going to be doing next week?
Well, I think because we got some chatter last time that we should have picked 8 Mile. So I think we're doing that this time around, which so I'm excited to do. I have not watched that since high school.
Yeah, so, it's been. I think
I haven't seen it since the theater.
Yeah. I think it's been almost that long for me as well, and I'm actually quite into that. I think that's going to be a good one. I think it's going to be very, very kind of Michigan. I think it's got a great cast as well, and I think it's one of those ones like Eminem was just at the absolute peak of what he was doing, and that movie really does like slam.
I remember him being fantastic. Like no one thought like, how is this even going to work? But he was so passionate about making that movie that I remember that being a huge part of it.
Though I do remember him also saying, I'm never doing a movie again because he was in every single scene. He's like, he's never not on camera, that it was absolutely exhausting for him. What was the other one, Ryan? We were talking right before we started. I can't even remember. What's the other movie we're bringing?
Horror film. I haven't seen it in forever, but It Follows.
Right. I know nothing about this movie, and I'm not going to look up this movie. Actually, I'm going in blind.
It's kind of in the title. I mean, so the title's kind of the movie.
It's most of the title. Yeah.
Yeah.
But as we established in season 1, me, not really a big fan of like horror movies, but slowly through some really good choices, the fellas have turned me around on this. So I'm actually
you were gonna go with that gigantic pussy in Texas, but that was already taken. So you had to pivot and go with that Englishman, which I mean, it's fine.
It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. All right, so guys, next time around, we're going to be heading to the state of Michigan. Like we said, the movies we're going to bring in are It Follows and 8 Mile. Remember, as always, one day they'll listen to us and sponsor us, but just watch. It's a great app you can find, or you can use it online. It'll tell you where everything is streaming. It's a super, super convenient way. And also, don't forget, always double check YouTube. Because you never know if some guy in Eastern Europe has uploaded the movie and it's
Gator is most certainly on YouTube.
Like nobody is guarding the rights to Gator. Yeah, it's illegal to own the rights to Gator, so that is definitely free.
Yeah.
So make sure you join us next week as we head to Michigan. As always, if you're interested in following or finding out more about me, you can find me as Ollie Pettigrew on Facebook, or that gigantic pussy in Texas. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok. You can find Will as entitled Willennial everywhere. But like I said, he's got an incredible movie selection. He's got a massive movie knowledge, and he will teach you about movies you maybe never even heard about. And when it comes to designs or commissioning designs, look up Ryan as Rhino Digital, RYNO Digital. He makes great redesigns of movies. He's got some really, really cool stuff. Are you not, in fact, wearing your Heat shirt right now?
No, this is from Rucking Fountain.
Oh, well, you let other people design stuff as well. But yeah, he has some really fantastic designs. You can get them. You can buy them online. It's fantastic as well. Don't forget, please come and find us on our Facebook page, the United States of a Movie. Drop us a comment as well on YouTube, other than trying to sell our videos better than we're currently doing them. But just come in, join the conversation, give us recommendations. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you. If you haven't subscribed, do it. Hit that little subscription, hit that notification bell. If you're listening to us on your podcast streaming right now, give us a review or just tell a friend, someone that loves movies as much as we do. Get them involved, get them in the conversation, and let's have some fun together. But go and watch Smokey and the Bandit. From me, Ollie, from Ryan, and from Will, as always, thanks for joining us for this episode of the United States of a Movie podcast. We'll see you next time.